All right, so for those of you that don't know me, I'm Federica. I'm a new dietitian now at so I'm joining in, and today we're going to be talking about healthy eating during quarantine. So, what we've been faced with now with being at home pretty much all day for a couple of weeks is pretty challenging. So, a lot of people are not necessarily used to working from home, being at home, and having to cook every day, right? So, the biggest thing we're losing nowadays with all this quarantine is having to be faced with the fact that we're losing our routines. So not only our cooking, our shopping, our sleeping routines, but also our schedule is completely changed. So for people that are still working, that can still be a challenge. And for people that are not working, it also poses a different challenge. In my case, I was definitely used to meal planning and batch cooking for at least 2 to 3 days a week, not for sure every day, but at least I would have my lunches ready. And now I'm making myself like I'm cooking every day and cleaning every day, which does become a little bit harder to keep up. So I wanted to make sure that today we could cover different things in the agenda. So what's been on the menu, how we can definitely assemble like a healthy, nutritious plate in no time, as well as snacks. We want to make sure that we're keeping in mind the satiety factor to make sure that we're not necessarily snacking or mindlessly eating throughout the day. So to start here, so what's been on the plate? When we're thinking about it, I've seen people falling under one or two groups. So on one side, there's many people that have fallen under the comfort foods, takeout, delivery, easy to get foods. And then we also have other people that have fall under the other side. So cooking at home, which means more and more cooking and more cleaning, right? So it's not necessarily something that we want to keep up. If there are better tips that we can definitely make sure that we're cooking once and then having enough throughout the day, or making sure that we can vary our meals as much as possible so we don't get tired of them, and that we also don't necessarily fall under the assortment of sweet and salty foods. So during stressful times, and we are tend to turn into emotional eating or go for those starchy, crunchy comfort foods because they do provide us that comfort and they're okay to eat. But if they're turning to be our everyday, every meal, every snack type of food, then we want to make sure that we're including other more nutritious, more complete immune supporting foods to make sure that we're as healthy as we can be during these times. So did somebody talk about food, right? So when we think about quarantine day, we want to keep in mind this is not necessarily what we want to happen every single day. So we are waking up, we're eating at 9, 9:30, 9:45, 11:30. So then it turns into a whole day of eating. Not like 3 meals or 5 snacks, but like we're eating every half an hour, a couple of minutes, and we are not necessarily feeling satisfied. So that's a word I definitely want to go over a couple times throughout the presentation, because if we're not feeling satisfied, it basically means that we're eating nonstop and we feel a little bit guilty sometimes because we're eating and eating, but we don't feel like we're okay. We still feel hungry or like we're craving for something more. So we want to make sure we reach that satiety factor at each one of those points where we're sitting down to eat something or snacking on something, to make sure that we're not overextending our meal times throughout the day. Now, last week, Elizabeth, another one of the dietitians, if you guys didn't join in, there was a Zoom session on mindful eating. So it's pretty helpful to keep this scale in mind. So if you think about it, I want you to take a look at the scale from 0 to 10. So we never want to be in either one of the extremes. So when we're considering number 0, that's definitely that we're so hungry that we might become hangry. So hunger and angry at the same time. We might have headaches, we might feel nauseous or lightheaded or shaky. This typically happens when we're so busy that we can forget to eat, or even when we're just not doing anything, but that the day might be passing by and then we realize, oh, shoot, it's 3 p.m. and we haven't eaten anything. So we want to make sure that we're keeping those signals and cues in mind and that we get to know our body a little bit better through mindful eating. That way we can recognize those cues a little bit better. When we're thinking about number 10, we don't necessarily want to be at the other extreme, because that's basically, if we think about it, like Easter, which just passed, or Thanksgiving, or Christmas, or Passover, or any of those big holidays, or even birthday parties, that we might eat a little bit too much, that we might feel like painfully full, nauseous, uncomfortably full. And we definitely want to keep these things in mind because we want to be a little bit more in the middle. So we want to be around the hungry to the satisfied stage when we can recognize, okay, I'm getting hungrier, but I know if I wait up a couple hours more, I'm going to get way too hungry. And I'm going to turn more into mindless eating and just eating until I'm way, way, way too full. And it's not going to be comfortable anymore. And I want to make sure that I can stop when I'm satisfied. And this has to be something where we can definitely be satisfied from one meal to the next so that we don't have the need to go for snacks often. We want to focus on nourishing and satisfying and pleasurable meals. That's the other portion of it, because yes, we can eat nutritious food, but if they're not pleasurable to us, we're not going to be able to keep up with those changes for long. So how we create nutritious meals. So when we're thinking about this, we definitely want to make sure that we can assemble our plate a little bit better, but I wanted to give you guys a couple more tips to make sure that these can be achievable and they can be varied enough to keep up with every day, especially now during quarantine that we're at home. So when we're thinking about this, think about the basics of a nutrient-packed plate. So try to always add a protein in. I emphasize a lot on the protein because it's definitely going to keep you a little bit more satisfied. It's also going to help with those muscle and avoid any muscle wasting if you're undergoing any treatment or any health condition, or even if you're exercising. You want to build up a little bit of muscle strength and be stronger and just increase your metabolic rate. The protein is really going to help in that, plus many, many other roles it has in the body. When we're thinking about carbohydrates, these are not necessarily bad. So we definitely want to make sure that we're including those starchy foods in. So these can be anywhere from any whole grain bread, oatmeal, chips, potatoes, rice, pasta. We can make different selections among those foods and make sure we're including them in the plate. As you can see in the pictures on the right side, you're going to see a carbohydrate, a vegetable, a protein, a fat. So a variety of those in there. When we're thinking about the fats as well, we definitely want to make sure that we're adding those throughout the day or throughout the week, and we can vary them. So let's say if we're thinking about things we might have in the pantry right now or in the cabinet, since it's quarantine season, we might have stock up on them. Think about nuts. So if you have walnuts one day, almonds another, you have seeds one day, and then peanut butter, that way you're including different types of fats that it's also going to be heart healthy. So we want to make sure that we're always adding the rainbow as well. So fruits and vegetables try to make them a staple. So even if it's just one meal a day where you're adding one fruit and then another meal a day you're adding a vegetable, that way you can make sure you're also getting all those nutrients from the rainbow and not just focusing on one. So to put this into practice, so think about it and choose from the protein side in here, the dark green, and then choose one from the carbohydrate and one from the fats, and try to add as much as you can any vegetables or fruits. So when we're thinking about this, you can make any selections from Greek yogurt, which would be ideal because compared to regular yogurt, it's going to have much more protein in it. It's going to keep you, again, more satisfied, which is what we want. And it's also going to have those good, healthy probiotics for our gut. So we want to keep our gut healthy. We want to be able to go to a bathroom a little bit easier. So high fiber is definitely going to help in that sense. So we want to make sure we're adding those in and we're keeping variety in our meals so that they're not getting boring. They're not getting tedious. They're not hard to make. So as you're seeing in here, I try to choose things that were pretty simple and that we could purchase and keep for a while in our fridge, in our pantry, without them necessarily going bad, especially for this time. And then for people that don't like veggies or that cannot eat too much at once or something like that, you can always make a smoothie, even if that means a veggie smoothie. So you can combine those in there and make sure that at least in a meal you're including those vegetables and that rainbow, the fruits and the veggies throughout the day. So whenever we're choosing any of these, remember, you can just choose them this way, you can choose them the other way. So you can mix and match however you want to make sure that this works for you. So that's the whole point, making something pretty easy and simple to follow at home. Now, when we're talking about snacks, right? So there's a misconception when we're thinking of snacks like, well, I'm just gonna have an apple and that's gonna keep me steady for the whole day. It doesn't work that way. We want to make sure that we're definitely having a combination of food groups. And again, I'll emphasize on the protein and the fiber to make sure that you're keeping yourself a little bit more satisfied throughout the day. And it's not just something that you're putting in your mouth, chewing it, and then you're still feeling like you're hungry. If you're hungry, go back to the scale. Make sure you're eating something, the mindful eating scale, eating something that will keep you satisfied for longer. So the whole point of the snacks, and as I really see them, is making sure that you're satisfied from one meal to the next. So basically we can call these as mini meals. They can provide us that long-lasting fullness from meal 1 to meal 2, And we can get creative with the recipes or the items that we have at home. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh, I can never eat chips, I can never eat nothing crunchy, nothing like that. We can make sure that we are adding those crunchy foods in there, like popcorn in this case, and you can add the sweets, so you can add the chocolate. Or if you want something a little bit more salty, we can have like one of those toasts down there and just add some protein in them. And that way you're having a combination of the food groups all in one. So keeping in mind, again, the snack rotation. So if you're always going for like the string cheese and the apple and the chips or something like that, you might get tired of it pretty quickly. And given the fact that we don't know how long we're going to be in quarantine right now, and even once we leave quarantine and we start going back to our daily schedules, we definitely want to make sure that we're keeping those healthy habits that we potentially have more time to implement right now, or a little bit more freedom in terms of what and when we can eat. So keeping in mind that variety is definitely going to be important. So in the same case in here, you can always mix and match. So you can do like the string cheese and the chips and the avocado, if that's what you want, or you can do like the walnuts and you can do chips and then a little bit of the salmon as your protein. Instead of salmon, you can do tuna, you can do chicken, you can do many, many things. And you can apply the same things that you had for breakfast or lunch. You can also have them as a snack. So don't ever feel like, oh, this is a breakfast only type of food. No, you can mix and match them throughout the day. As always, try to include that rainbow, try to include those veggies as much as you can. If you're not including any right now, that's okay. Just try to set a goal like, okay, 1 meal a day, I'm gonna add those in, or 2 meals a day, or 3 meals a week, or something like that. Something is better than nothing for sure. Now, this is something I definitely want to emphasize. So good nutrition does not equal perfection. So for you to have a good balanced diet, it doesn't mean that 100% of the time you have to be eating a vegetable, you have to be eating salads, you have to be eating a protein. No, it just means that you can have variety and freedom to choose, but you definitely want to make sure that most of your meals or most of your weeks are looking a little bit better and more nutritious balance compared to other days of the week. So as you're going to see in here, like some days you can have a very complete meal, but some other days you might have the pizza that you really like from that restaurant that you want to order and take out, and then just have maybe like some veggies that are on the side. Maybe that day you don't want veggies. That's totally fine. On the next day, you're going to retake and go back to whatever you were doing before. And that's how we definitely want to make sure that we're keeping peace of mind, nutritious balance, and we're keeping our immune system, our health completely well overall. All right. So as a summary, as we're taking a look in here, try to keep in mind, number one, we want to support our health, our immune system through our nutrition. So we definitely want to make sure that we're eating the rainbow, the variety of foods. We're including those high protein, high fiber items in there to make sure that we're not only more satisfied, but we're also a little bit better throughout the day and not necessarily mindlessly eating. So we want to apply those concepts of mindful eating as much as we can. So listening to those hungers, satiety, and fullness cues, thinking about that scale I showed you guys at the beginning to make sure that we're kind of like keeping in mind those concepts and trying to listen to our body whenever we're reaching that stage where we're like, I'm comfortably full. I don't need to be excessively full. So we can stop a little bit before. Establishing a meal schedule is 100% helpful. So especially during these times, even if you're not working or if you are, try to say like, okay, I'm going to eat, I don't know, like 9 a.m. is my typical breakfast. I'm going to keep that going. At 1, I want to make sure I'm getting my lunch and so on and so forth. It might be totally different for different people, and that's okay. Just find something that really works for you. But keeping a schedule will definitely help you make sure that you're not grazing or snacking as frequently. So that's super helpful. And then protein and fiber. So that satiety factor is truly, truly helpful. Notice a difference on days when you're having eggs for breakfast versus when you're only having oatmeal, and see how you feel. Maybe you can combine it with both. Maybe you can have oatmeal and Greek yogurt to be a little bit more satisfied longer. And then definitely trying to experiment with new foods, recipes, making it fun, bringing family or any members that you have in your own home to, or even if you want to do any like Zoom sessions or FaceTime where you're including other people and try to make different recipes, that's definitely going to keep you a little bit better throughout these times that we're certainly much more stressed out and we're finding difficulty connecting with people. So at least through nutrition, we can do it, some of those things. So let me see. I see I have some questions in here. Okay. All right, no problem. Okay, so thank you guys. Let me know if you have any questions, if there's anything else you want to know. And if not, we'll see you at the next Zoom session. Thank you for joining.